Hey,
Tis with,
look, hey everybody. This is kind of a behind the view.
Wait, hold on.
Wait,
over.
what?
I had to do the
I said it was
crusty
behind
thing.
it was behind the scenes view. So sometimes Brian gets these eye boogers. I don't. I just don't.
I prefer crusties.
Eye crusties. I don't get those. I just, kind of blessed, kind of biologically blessed in that way. But anyway, so it's kind of a behind the scenes view of this week in Keats. We're doing kind of special episode. It's this day in Keats. We just have a quick little letter. We just want to do a quick little thing for you all to make sure you're still tied into Keats's life and stuff. So it's a short little letter to Jane Reynolds sometime in September 1817. We think it's between the 10th and the 14th. So we place it right around the 12th. You'll probably get it the 13th. So let's go with the 13th, right? So, So we're thinking the big thing we should do is just share the letter with you all, and let's just read this. So I was like, I'll do it, but it's a hard letter. And then Brian, good guy that he is,
I'll do it.
He's like, I'll just do it. I was like, sounds great.
I can handle it.
So we're kind of looking it over, and then we got into a fight.
We did.
Just
it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. Behind the scenes,
That's
it's
right.
actually a lot of ego here. A lot of
rage.
Yeah.
Might seem like all fun and games on This Week in Keats, but
let's talk about where it is. So
okay. No.
Okay.
Before we get into the letter, let me set the scene a little.
Sure.
Okay. Keats, still visiting Oxford. He's
Sorry,
you want to not interrupt? Okay, so Keats is visiting Oxford. He's with Benjamin Bailey in Oxford at Magdalen Hall.
Yep.
And he's been there for maybe 10 days at this point.
Yep.
And we saw on September 4th that Bailey and Keats wrote a letter together. They clubbed a letter, as Keats will encourage Jane and Marianne to do. Club a letter as in like writing it cooperatively as a club. So they had written a letter together to Jane and Marianne Reynolds on the 4th. It seems like Bailey and Keats received a letter from them in the interim, and now Bailey's writing back, and Keats just adds this brief little note. So it's not a whole letter from Keats, not a whole half of the letter as it was in the previous one. It's just a sort of brief thing that he adds, and then he says, I'll get a full response to you later, and that's the letter we'll see a couple days from now on September 14th. Okay, so...
And that letter on the 14th is, we just reread it. It's one of the great letters, and it's kind of one of those letters where it's one of those letters where if you don't take a little time with the letters, everybody kind of passes over it, right? There's not any of the famous poetic statements. It is just beautiful and funny and moving and rich but anyway, you're here at the KLP, so you know that's what we're about anyway. But anyway, so why don't
top three?
Whoa,
top three of 1817.
Of 1817. What are your other? What would even approach this?
Well, I mean, we got to talk about negative capabilities in that top three. 1817. I would say there are a couple in November to Bailey that are also pretty great.
Of course, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let's focus on this one. This is just supposed to be a day in Keats, not a week. So let's get to it.
Let's get there.
All right, so I'm going to read the letter.
Let's hear your layman's version.
Here we go. All right. My dear Jane, you must not expect that your porcupine quill is to be shot at me with impunity, without you mean to question the existence of the pyramids. The pyramids! Ding, 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 ding. Okay, all right. Without you mean to question the existence of the pyramids.
You gotta start beyond the next time, otherwise we're gonna keep high-fiving each other.
Okay, the existence of the
comedic rule of three, everybody.
Okay,
Sorry.
Yeah. Go watch our last episode. You'll get it. All right. Or rout Sir Isaac Newton out of his coffin. If I did not think you had a kind of preference yourself, I should say you self, for Juliet, I would not say a word more about it. But as I know people love to be reminded of those they most love, 'tis with me a certain thing that you are merely fishing for a little proing and conning thereon. As for you accusations, I perhaps may answer them like Hayden in a postscript. If you go on at this rate, I shall always have you in my imagination side by side with Bailey's picture of Jeremy Taylor, who always looks as if he were going to hit me a rap with a book he hold in a very threatening position. My head is always in imminent danger. However, with the armor of words and the sword of syllables, I hope to attack you in a very short time, more at length. My love to Marianne, yours sincerely, John Keats.
I hope to attack you more at length later on. Whoa.
What? Later on?
I hope to attack you in a very short time. Sorry.
Yeah.
More at length.
More at length.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. He's going to write it.
No, I get it.
But it's weirdly turning this letter writing into an allegorical, violent struggle.
It's a little parrying. Some parrying. Yeah. Now, okay. That was a nice reading.
Thanks.
Good reading, except for the one error you made.
Right. So what we were fighting about was with the "'tis with me a certain thing that you are merely fishing for a little proing and conning thereon." I was saying it's "'tis with me," as in like, from my perspective, to me it seems a certain thing that you are merely fishing for a little proing and conning thereon.
And of course, the with me is like, yeah, it's my perspective, but the issue there, the main thing is the certainty of it, right? So it's like, if I did not think you had a kind of preference yourself for Juliet, I would not say a word more about it. But as I know people love to be reminded of those they most love, 'tis with me a certain thing that you are merely fishing for a little proing and conning thereon. 'Tis with me a certain thing. So here's the thing. We don't need to get into right now who's right or wrong about this. But what we need to do is like kind of figure out a little bit like, and so actually it's been fun with some of our videos that we make when we try to read these letters, because just as with poems, like sometimes you don't register how much you kind of know them or know their dynamics, or even just registering their dynamics until you actually try to read them aloud.
Yeah.
To actually really sit here and try to figure out how we hear those, how we imagine Keats might be trying to articulate those or want them to be transcribed. That stuff actually is, I don't know, I think it could be a bigger part of even of what's happening at the KLP. So either way, it's good to hear it out loud. And it's good to even hear that, maybe we heard it a little differently, and if we were more serious here, we might do some analysis of it. But there are songs to be sung.
No.
Okay, not yet? Okay.
No.
Soon?
No song.
Gilly.
So, couple things to point out before we go.
Yep.
Number one, you self, and as for you accusations,
Lots of
those, right? When I first read it, I said yourself, because of course when you're reading this, that's just what your reading brain does. It fills in the stuff that you expect to see. We expect to see an R there for yourself.
But Keats is weirdly adamant about this use of this strange kind of archaic use, right? Of instead of yourself, you self. Right, or instead of your you,
right. And Rollins in his edition cites that variant as not just Keats misspelling or writing quickly, or not clearly writing the R, but that it does seem like that's a intentional choice that he's making there. Number two that I'd like to point out is the proing and conning thereon. So this is a phrase that we hear a couple different times in Keats's letters. One is on September 10th in the letter to Fanny Keats, Keats's younger sister.
Right.
So that letter we just had, that's the first letter to Fanny Keats, and there's a series of a couple dozen letters to her. Some of his greatest letters are to her. There's just
gorgeous,
fantastic part of the correspondence. But he begins that first letter to her by basically saying, hey, let's start a little back and forth here, a conversation. Let's do a little pro and con. He says it as a way to so that he can get to know her better,
Draw
so he can
her
understand
into-
right what she likes, how he can
Yep.
sort of aim his correspondence towards her specifically.
Yep.
Here it's a little
Playful teasing.
playful
Right,
teasing.
yeah.
Exactly. And we'll see it again in the longer letter that Keats writes a day or two from now on the 14th, where he brings up this proing and conning.
And then it becomes even later on. Then is it in spring of 1818? Then there'll be the kind of discussion of the kind of the irritable genus or the genus irritable of poets. And Keats will say that, right, so we want a kind of pro and con. So suddenly it becomes, not suddenly, but he also uses it in the register of a kind of bit more kind of abstract philosophical debate as well, right? So,
and that's what it's the letter to Woodhouse in 1818, where he talks about the poetical character and the chameleon poet.
That's right.
So again, he employs that proing and conning in that sort of more serious philosophical discourse. But then there's a final time in the last letter that we have of Keats, end of November 1820.
It's his last letter that we have, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's too soon to talk. We can't get into that. We're not prepared for that.
But
there's too much levity here.
Yeah, but terrifying to even think, though, that there's this major kind of thread that weaves its way from this beautiful kind of sexy, interesting, playful teasing, and then that will thread its way through to kind of philosophical abstraction, and then to kind of finally the final word, right? Yeah. Whoa. Yeah.
Well, now we need some song to lighten things up. So, is that
here's my version of Lou Reed's Sweet Jane Reynolds.
Sweet Jane Reynolds.
Hit it.
So we're not showing you?
No, I don't want. No, you just have to sit there and suffer.
Okay. I'll go like
Standing on a corner, suitcase in my hand. Jack's in his car, says to Jane, who's in a vest, me, babe, I'm in a rock and roll band. Riding in a Stutz Bearcat gym, those are different times. And the poet studied rows of verse, and all the ladies rolled their eyes. Sweet Jane, whoa, whoa, sweet Jane, oh, whoa, sweet Jane. Now Jack, he is a bank. And Jane, she is a clerk. And the both of them are saving up their money. And they get home from work. Ooh! Sitting down by the fire. Oh! The radio just played a little classical music for your kids. The March of the Wooden Soldiers. And you can hear Jack say, Sweet Jane, whoa, whoa! Sweet Jane, Sweet Jane. Some people like to go out dancing, and other people, like us, they gotta work. And there's always some evil mothers. They tell you that life is full of dirt. And the women never really faint. And the villains always blink their eyes. And the children are the only ones who blush, 'cause life is just to die. But anyone who has a heart wouldn't turn around and break it. Anyone who ever played the part, he wouldn't turn around and fake it. Sweet Jane, whoa, whoa, Sweet Jane, oh, Sweet Jane.
Is it over?
I don't know who you're talking to, because this is not Mike Tooney.